while I'm waiting for my homework to download, I'll go ahead and welcome everybody and introduce our speaker, and then I'll work in the background while you're chatting. Thank you for being here today. My name is Julia Haverstock. I am the librarian and also a gardener who started our seed library. I feel like I don't explain our seed library enough because I assume everybody knows about it and understands, but I'm going to do it today because I actually remember to. So we have a seed library. It's meant to be take what you need, leave enough for other folks to share. There are little envelopes, but today we have a plethora of things because we've had some really generous donations. So please make sure to check flowers and veggies that we have. There's still lots of stuff that can be direct sown right now, veggies and flowers and all kinds of stuff. So please help yourselves. Just make sure sign a membership form, which really just means I keep a quasi list of varieties that people take and want. And then I keep your email address and email you very infrequently about these types of events. So today we have an esteemed guest, Suzanne Shires. She came to talk to us once last year or the year before, and she's an incredible wealth of knowledge about foraging and plants and anything you could imagine relating to that, including cooking. She has 2 really beautiful books that she has published about that topic, which I'm sure she'll talk to you about later. They are really gorgeous, like you just get really excited flipping through the pages. Big, beautiful pictures, lots of really great information. So she's going to talk to us today. She's got some demos, she's got some plants, she's got some things to taste, and we are super excited to have her. And then hopefully if my homework gets done, she'll show you some pictures at the end. So thanks all for being here.
Yeah.
Oh, and if you didn't sign up for the raffle, please write your name on a piece of paper and put it in that upgraded fancy jar. We've upgraded from the paper bag. Now we have a fancy jar. So, yeah. Suzanne, take it away.
Well, thank y'all for having me. I'm very excited to talk to you today. I get very excited about wild food and wild plants, wild medicine. I'm a master herbalist. I've been doing this for about 20 years. I've foraged since I was a child. Who has never really eaten anything wild? Anybody? Okay. Have you ever gone out to a fence and picked a honeysuckle and taken the little drop? Okay, well, you've been a forager. I just want you to know you have foraged. I want everybody to feel comfortable with plants. Now, this can be wild plants. This can be weeds. Heaven forbid you call it a weed. Weeds, yes, we do eat our weeds, and a friend of mine even has a bumper sticker, and I've been trying to come up with my own little bumper sticker. Hers says, "Eat the weeds." We eat the weeds. That's a Jeannie from Red Moon Herbs, a beautiful lady. She has this little bumper sticker. Every once in a while, she'll change it, change the design of it. So mine is about worn out, and I've got to get another one from her because I do eat my weeds. I eat something wild every day. So I'm going to give you a little, Julia went and got us a lemon lime soda, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about this, and I'm going to go ahead and give a sample of this so you can say you've had something wild today, and then we're going to revisit this in a minute, but I'm going to go ahead and let everybody have a sample. What this is peony flour. This is peony flour syrup. That's a little vanilla bean, not wild. But I'm just going to mix this up, and if someone will volunteer to give everybody a sample, I've got some little cups up here. I'll just need some. Would you come and do that for me? Now, if you're, there's a few floaties in here. Those are vanilla beans. That's,
what part of the peony are you using? The flour?
Flour.
The petals of the flower.
The petals of the flower, the whole flower.
The whole flower.
I have 13 on one plant, so I just grabbed 2 in about a quart. Let me taste it. Yummy. That's very good. Yes, very good. If you want to pass them out, sure. One of you can pour them. And so, they're going to talk about that. We're going to revisit this again in a minute, but we'll just go ahead and talk about it. Yes, it's a domestic plant, but there's lots of parts on a domestic plant that we don't think about eating. I heard somebody talk about their broccoli. I bet you don't use those outer leaves, or those outer leaves go to your chickens or something like that. Those outer leaves are some of the best cabbage you'll ever eat. High in vitamins, high in nutrients. So I also include odd parts of domestic vegetables in with my wild food when I talk. And today this presentation is not just the wild food, but what do you do with it? Do you just make a salad? Absolutely not. We just make syrup. We make dips. We make all kinds of things. So I want you to get in that mind frame of being able to go out into your yard and get some food, and be able to come in and create a meal. Now, if you go out into your yard with the mindset of, I'm going to fix lasagna today, I don't know, I just made that up, and you're going to go out and look for something to put in your lasagna, you may or may not find it. But if you go out and say, oh, here's a bunch of this, and I can make this with it because I have some hamburger, and I'll create, maybe you're going to gather some roots, like Jerusalem artichoke, for example. You can come in and dice those Jerusalem artichokes up, boil them, whatever you're going to make you can make a shepherd's pie with your Jerusalem artichokes. I just made that up, and that's got to go in the next book. Yeah, remember that. Somebody emailed me that. Don't forget to make that Jerusalem artichoke shepherd's pie. So, that's how it works. That's how wild food works. That's how saving money on your grocery bill works, of course. So if you go in with a set mind of, here's exactly what I'm going to fix, you may or may not have as much luck. But if you broaden your horizons, so to speak, and gather things that you can eat, that you know you can eat, then you can make a meal that's fit for a king or queen. One thing too, most people say, well, I don't know what I can eat. I understand that. This book is way too big to take with you out into the field or out into your yard. So get you a very good ID book. Samuel Thayer has great books. He's probably got 20. He has identified. He'll categorize. He'll name, show you what it looks like, how to ID it, and then you go out and find it. When you find it, you can flip through your book. Now, all 20 or so of his books are for Northeast region, Pacific Northwest, Southern coastline, Eastern United States. So we're in the Southeast, of course, and he has 2 or 3 for us in our area. Maybe it's the Atlantic Seaboard or Southeast states. Ohio Valley Wildflowers is another good one. If it's in the Ohio Valley, it's probably here. I don't know why. It just is. It's just because. So having said that, there are lots of books that I want you to get and get one, at least one, so that you know how to ID these plants. Once you ID them, it's much easier to know what you can and can't eat. I don't know what's in
What was the last name of that person again?
Samuel Thayer, Thayer. Newcomb's, Newcomb, Newcomb's Wildflower Guide is another one, and there's also a Newcomb's Tree Book, and there might be a Weeds book too. Okay. So get something where you can ID plants. Plants, of course, are in genuses and families. So, for example, let's take a locust tree. We just had this beautiful explosion of white locust flowers everywhere because we have so many black locust trees here. Now, black locust trees, for example, have this beautiful white cluster that looks like wisteria, but it's white, and those are edible. Those black locust flowers are edible. Now, if you look at honey locust, who's ever seen a honey locust with thorns on it about like this, big clusters of thorns? The only thing that's edible on the honey locust is the pod, but it is the best cacao you've ever had. Well, it's like, I started saying kin to. You can tell I'm old Appalachia, right? It's kin to the Kentucky tree, Kentucky coffee tree, which again is edible. It only has certain parts. Most plants you find won't be so specific. You won't have to worry about not eating one part as opposed to the other part being edible, where another part might be toxic. And toxicity is usually in the dose. Not always. There's never ever any absolutes in nature, right? So Did everybody get a sample? And it does have sugar, but it's just a little sip, so take that into consideration. However, so when you learn these plants, learn what can be eaten, what shouldn't be eaten, and then also you'll find meristematic parts. Meristematic just means tasty bits. So you might bite into, okay, for example, if you've ever eaten asparagus raw, straight out of your garden, you know where it breaks, at the tender part. If you were to go below that tender part, it would be chewy and stringy, not palatable. Well, that would not be meristematic, but the part where it broke, that's meristematic. So there's a lot of parts that you might get, like for example, everybody knows this is pine, right? Pine is not necessarily meristematic. You wouldn't want to just chow down on it, but you could take and chop these up very fine, mince them up very fine, and use that as a spice on fish. It's wonderful, it's awesome, especially spruce or cedar. You know, if you ever put salmon on a cedar plank, you can eat cedar. You can eat cedar. You can eat pine. So, all right. Having said that, we talked a little bit about the about ID. Does anybody have confusion on how you're going to start learning your plants? Tell me, because I want to answer all questions for you. So, if you're curious about something, not necessarily a particular plant, but how would you know? Please feel free to ask about it. Okay. But I'm going to start talking to you about a few of the plants that I've got here. We're going to kind of dissect this little haphazard bouquet. I picked this morning, of course, and we're going to save this one for last because I've got some surprises for you. Who knows what that is?
Daisy.
It's an oxeye daisy. Oxeye daisy, cousin to chamomile in the aster family. All completely edible. Did you know that? Your daisies are edible. If y'all want to start chowing down on a daisy, that's perfectly fine. This is my favorite part right here. Let's see if I can get this out. You see the little bud? Take those buds. If you find a field of daisies, you can go through and get these, but this is actually a large one. I thought it'd be better to bring a large one. But you can just pull these off like that, put them in a little vinegar, and that's your best, that's your wild, what is it you put on fish? Gosh, it just flew out of me. Caper. That's your wild capers right there. I have a little jar of these, and there's a picture of them in my book and the recipe in there about my books, and I'll tell you a little bit more about those later. Yes. But you can just use these for capers. You can just throw them in like this. Just throw them in a pot of water and simmer them for about 2 minutes, and put them in your eggs, what have you. But the pickled flavor, let me pass these around and take a pebble if you want to. The pickled flavor of these capers are fabulous. Something else that you can use for a caper is green elderberries. Now, who's read that green elderberries will kill you graveyard dead, right? They won't. They won't. If you treat them in some manner, that means either dry them, completely dry, cook them, put them in alcohol, put them in vinegar, like our capers, it removes the toxin. So yes, if you were to just eat them off the bush, that toxin that's in them might give you a stomach ache, might give you the runs, things like that. It's not gonna make you drop over unless you eat an awful lot, way more than I could ever eat. Yes, sir.
I was told that there's an American elderberry and a European elderberry. The European elderberry stay away from?
No, not correct. I have Europeans, I'm sorry, whoever told you that, it may be for them, but I have European and American. European is Sambucus nigra, and American is a Sambucus canadensis. Now there's lots of crosses, lots of varieties. If you've got a Johns, an Adams, all of these varieties of elderberry, they're just crosses, they're just varieties. But I've got them both in my yard. They're very hard to tell apart. There's just some distinct, yeah. Now the one that they might have been talking about and just got the name confused is the red elderberry. So, and it doesn't grow here naturally. Someone might have brought one in. I do know someone I'd love to find that lady again. She had several varieties, beautiful varieties of elderberry. And they were red, they were purple, there was a white one. I had never seen a white one. And I don't remember where she, I don't remember how I found her. But that's been about 5 or 6 years ago. And somehow I've just lost where she was. I was traveling. But anyway, the red one is said to be the most toxic. It has to be prepared, it has to be cooked, and that takes those toxins out. So if you were just to eat them raw off the bush, it might cause some upset. The same with the blue one. And both of those grow mostly on the West Coast, unless they've just been propagated here. So how about the blossoms? And I think I did get a blossom, an elderberry blossom. Can you eat that? You can. When this flowers, you can take the flowers, make fritters. You could just take this whole thing like this, dip it in batter, fry it, and make an elderberry fritter. Now, not necessarily when it's green like this, because it wouldn't be meristematic. What does that mean? Tasty bits. When it flowers, and this, you just take this like this, dump it down in your pancake batter, and fry it as a fritter. It's fabulous. But you can take these little balls like this and actually make those as a caper too. Why can we eat that like that? Because we're treating it. We're doing something with it. Yes, ma'am?
With the daisy, any type of daisy you can eat the buds?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Shasta is borderline. I really don't know about it, so I would hate to tell you. But yes, everything about the daisy is edible, even the stem. Not quite as meristematic down here because it's chewy. Up here, it's very tender. You can take the petals, eat the petals, sprinkle them in your salad. This part, to me, I don't like it. I don't like this. Now, if I were to take and crumble that up as a salad sprinkle, I can eat it. But, because it'll crumble up, see there, like that. But if I were just to chow down on this, I don't like that texture. It's a texture thing for me. But the entire thing is edible. And how you know these in the early spring, this is one of the first greens that comes up. Take a look after I pass these out. Now I'll tell you that, right? If you look at these leaves, they will come up in a little mound. And where you find them, it'll be just like a mum mound, but you'll see these little leaves with ears on them, right? You want me to pass this back around so you can see that? You'll see these little ears on the leaves. And that's a very early green. Now the old ones, what they would do, because the diet was very bland in the wintertime, they might have some salt pork and cornbread or a bag of flour, and that lasted them through the winter. They waited. Now here it's not so bad as, say, Kentucky, places like that, because it's much colder winters up there. We have a very mild winter here. It used to be a lot colder. But they would go all winter with that very bland diet, some very poor people, and then they would wait for that first flush of greens. Didn't matter what kind of greens. They were getting those greens and doing that spring cleansing. You may remember your grandparents talking about the spring cleansing. Well, that's what it was. They would do a mess of poke, they would do a mess of dandelion greens, whatever they found that came up early, and daisy happened to be one of them, because these greens will come up in February in my yard. So you're looking for that first flush. You can go and pick all of those greens, saute them up, boil them up, however you're going to prepare them, and you'll have that first flush. And it'll send you to the bathroom. It'll help get your sluggish system going a little bit, but that's the way our bodies were designed. Yes, ma'am.
So I have a lot of daisies in my yard. How do you make sure that the little teeny tiny bugs are not on it?
You can rinse them. You can just take these and just rinse them in water, and that will usually get rid of them. You can put a little vinegar in there. The question was, how do you get rid of the pests? You can put some baking soda in there, just like you would your fruit from the grocery store. Just take and rinse them, and usually that will get them off. If you let them dry, you'll see. And then somebody somewhere, and I know somebody probably thought it, protein. I hate it when they do that. I'm just like, No, I don't like bugs in my salad. I really don't. So, yes, ma'am.
How about when you have pets in the yard or when your yard's fertilized? How does that affect
If
things?
you're fertilizing your yard, your grass and all of that, and you're looking for things to come up, you just have to be, is that something that you would put on your food in your garden? Would you put that same fertilizer on your tomatoes? We eat a lot of chemicals, so I tend to not fertilize my yard. I do have a dog, so I don't, this wasn't, these things we just ate was not picked where my dog goes. I promise you, my dog doesn't get in them. So I'm just aware that she loves to run in the yard. She does a lot of things. So if it's someplace that I would eat, then I'll look for that. If I have something that comes up in my yard, wire leaf sage coming up everywhere now. But if I only had one and I wanted to, it's very medicinal, and I wanted to preserve that, I would take the seeds and go put them in the bed that I wanted it. Propagate your wild food, propagate your dandelions, propagate your daisies, what have you. If you don't have a wild place in your yard, or your yard's very small, look for a good wild place. It may be at the park. Unfortunately, I know a lot of people who forage in Jackson Park, but I won't eat anything out of Jackson Park because it floods. Floods a lot. I used to get birch sap from Jackson Park. Birch sapping, tapping trees won't kill them. It's, won't hurt them at all. It's food for us. That's not something that animals are going to be able to access, but it floods, so I don't tap those trees anymore. The first year I saw that flood, I was like, I've been tapping those trees. The birch tree, birch sap, if you've never had birch syrup, oh, it's absolutely wonderful. It's much better than, to me, much better than maple. But it takes 100 to 1, where maple takes 40 to 1. So if you have 40 gallons, you'll get 1 gallon of maple syrup, but it takes 100 gallons to get 1 gallon of birch syrup. Well worth it. It's so worth it. But I'll freeze it. It's highly nutritious, so I'll freeze it in the wintertime or in the early spring when I get it, and then during the summer I'll just use it to make lemonade or what have you. It doesn't really have a flavor, but it's very highly nutritious. So, all right, what about the leaves on elderberry? Toxic, unless you boil them, and I still would not eat them. However, if you're making elderberry syrup, this will add, I'm a firm believer in whole plant medicine whenever possible. So once you boil these, it takes the toxin out, so you can use them in your elderberry syrup. Do you have to get every single stem off of your elderberries when you're making elderberry syrup? No. Why? Because you're going to boil it. You're going to treat it. So that's one thing about certain plants, not every plant, by no means, not every plant. Certain plants you will have to treat in some way. That's either freezing, which breaks the cell walls. You'll get more medicine out of a plant when you freeze it before you process it. You can freeze it, you can cook it, you can do several different things. Put it in alcohol, put it in vinegar, several different ways, and that's why this class is foraging and preserving, because we have a very short window for most of these things. So if you want it all year, you have to process it. And I have a very good friend named Holly Drake. Some of you may follow her with Wild Blessings. Love her to death. I go and teach at her place every once in a while. She processes her greens like burdock. This is a burdock here. If you're not familiar with burdock, get familiar with it. It's a wonderful plant. These greens are still meristematic. They do need to be cooked. But she will process burdock leaves, elecampane leaves, sochan, all of these different plants for greens. She'll parboil them, and then she'll squeeze the water out and freeze that in a ball, and she calls them her burdock balls, because she'll just, when she goes to cook them, she just takes them out of the freezer and lets them thaw, and she uses them just like they were fresh greens. So you can do all kinds of mixtures and have those greens all year. So, if you need 2 cups of spinach, well, if you've got your wild wild greens prepared, you can just take and put your wild greens in that and you've eaten wild greens for the day, which are much more nutritious, highly nutritious, much more nutritious than getting greens at the grocery store. So that's why I encourage so many people to look for wild food. Okay, let's see, what was next? While we got burdock, has anybody ever dug a burdock root? Burdocks are a taproot, and they can get long. In the Korean restaurants, or Korean grocery stores, there's one up at Smiley's Flea Market called Bamboo Grocery. I love that little store. They'll have gobo. Well, guess what gobo is? It's burdock. It's burdock. They call it gobo. And you'll find these roots that are about like this. So they have specially prepared beds, very deep beds, where they let those roots grow very long, and they're very easy to pull out. Now, if you have just a standard yard, your roots aren't going to get that as deep as those, but they still get pretty deep. And if you go to dig that out, you're probably going to break that root. That's okay if you got a bunch of them. It'll grow back. This is a biennial plant. It'll send a stem up, and that's when you get the burrs and things, so you want to cut it before it sends up that stem. And plant it where you want it, because it's selfish. It will take over. It wants the whole garden if you're not careful. So just remember, if it does go places that you don't want it, you can get it out after the second year if you just don't let it flower with it, and so it won't spread seeds, which those burrs have seeds. Unfortunately, this one is right outside my back door, so I have to cut it. I've cut the leaves off. This one I just happened to save, but it's come up like 2 steps out my back door, and it's in a terrible place. I did have lamb's quarter come up there. Has anybody ever had lamb's quarter? Who knows what that plant is? I didn't even think to get any of it. Best spinach ever. It's wild spinach. You'll see it listed as wild spinach. That's a chenopodium. It's in the amaranth family, so it'll send up all these seeds that you can toast and then sprinkle on salads. So that's one way. You dry them and then toast them just like you would chia seed, and then you can sprinkle those on a salad. You can grind them up and put it in flour. So that's how you're preserving the seeds. Well, the leaves can be picked every day. You're constantly picking those leaves. And I used to, when I had one that just came up right outside my back door, which is not surprising because I'm carrying things in and out constantly, and I drop stuff. I'm clumsy. So I would chop up some bacon. If you don't eat bacon, you could use whatever, turkey bacon, whatever. But I would chop up bacon, put it in my frying pan on about medium. I would go right outside my door with a bowl, and I would pick a little serving, about this much, of lamb's quarter leaves. And then evening primrose came up. This is the yellow sundrops evening primrose. The entire plant is edible. So one of those came up right beside it. So I would grab my leaves, go in and wash them, shake them off, throw them in the pan. By that time, my bacon had, it took me like 3 minutes to do this. So my bacon was beginning to toast, and I would stir it around, throw in my greens in the grease, in the drippings, and the bacon, crack a couple of eggs, and I would have that for breakfast every day. Doesn't get any fresher, right? Now, if I wanted to freeze those lamb's quarter leaves, I certainly could. I would process them, either steam them or boil them for just a minute, and parboil them, and then make my lamb's quarter balls, and just throw those in a bag and freeze them. Or I would flash freeze them, scatter them on a baking sheet, put them in, and then I can just put them in the freezer, and then I can just take and throw those in a bag. And that way I can just grab some out and put them in have them all winter. So I'm getting my greens all winter that way. So that's one way to preserve your greens. Now, who knows, this one has gotten a little wilted. Does anybody recognize that?
Sorrel?
It's
Sorrel?
It's sheep sorrel. Yes, ma'am, you're right. My yard is full of this. So this has a very citrusy flavor. You're welcome to pull off some of the little seeds, but it's very citrusy. That comes from oxalic acid. If you're familiar, or if you have kidney stones, You want to go lightly on oxalic acid, but spinach has oxalic acid. Green beans have oxalic acid. So you have to be aware. It's not something that's limited only to wild food. It's just that wild food tends to have a little bit more because wild food is more nutritious. So there's going to be a little bit more oxalic acid in much of the wild of this plant than, say, spinach. But still, if you're prone, oxalic acid makes up kidney stones. That's one of the building blocks of a kidney stone or a gallbladder stone. So if you're prone to those, you may want to limit some greens like this. But there's ways to get those to be less prone to developing stones. Gravel is what it's called. And the old ones would call it gravel. And there is a gravel root, it's Joe Pye weed, that will help that. So having said that, this is one of my favorite. The seeds will turn brown when they're ready to harvest. So you just take and strip those right off, just like if this were the plant, you can just take and strip those right off, spread them out, let them dry, and you've got a sprinkle just like you would use chia seed. And I'm very leery of chia seed because most of it comes from China, unfortunately. So if you're thinking you're doing something really good for your body, we really have to start asking deeper questions about our food. And I'm a firm believer in asking. People will say, well, this was sourced here. Okay, well, did they use the spray with it, even though it says organic? Have they still sprayed it, or have they processed it? How did they process it? Oh, well, I didn't think about that. So there's lots of questions we've got to learn to ask. Does anybody recognize this little devil? Oh, yeah. I just want to, when I say that, I have had more scars on my legs as a child running through the woods and in shorts, because of these. On these, they're real tender. But as they get stiff and older, man, those little thorns will. This is Smilax. Smilax, S-M-I-L-A-X. Now, would you think about eating that? No. But this part right here, the meristematic part, well, here I say it, there it is. The meristematic part is absolutely wonderful. It has a little bit of a lemony, citrusy flavor.
Isn't that what I call cat briar?
Cat briar, green briar, yeah, it's called several different things. This one looks kind of puny, but as just to let you know, the deer love it. Deer love this. So usually just the tips, and this will grow, and if you let it grow, it just goes everywhere. Don't confuse it with bittersweet, because bittersweet is toxic. Bittersweet won't have a thorn on it. So even though I've already pulled this off, we'll send them both together. Very good in a salad. You can saute those, or if you're sauteing greens, I would put them in at the last minute. You can eat the leaves as well, although the leaves, even cooked, the older leaves are not meristematic, but you could flavor a broth with them. So you could still use them in your cooking. Okay, this one, I'm excited about this one. Who knows what this is? They're growing outside. Sedum, autumn sedum, right? That's very edible. This is very edible. One of the best recipes I've ever had with this, I was at a wild food demonstration, and so this is not my original. So the gentleman, Daryl Patton, as a matter of fact, he's my mentor. He called me up and he said, take these leaves off. I'm like, what are you doing? Sedum. This is sedum. So I took all the leaves off, and he had a pan of butter. He had put about, I don't know how many tablespoons of butter in the pan and let it brown. He let it caramelize. And then turned the heat off, laid these in it, stirred them around just enough because they're very tender. I think there's enough everybody can have at least a half leaf. But he toasted those and then just threw walnuts in it, coated those in the butter. It was so good over a bed of rice or other greens, something like that. And I'm a layerer. I layer things a lot, so I might have grits and then a bed of greens and then something on top of that, and then kimchi on top of that maybe, and then sprinkle it with seeds. So I'm a layerer when it comes to food. I like that. I like that type of food. So isn't it interesting? It's a very interesting plant, very interesting texture. It's a little bit citrusy, but it's a little bit slimy as well. Not slimy like okra, cooked okra, but it does have a slick feel in your mouth. Anything that's slimy, so to speak, or slick is good for your gut. So people that had ulcers back in the day, they would eat sedum raw or cooked to help soothe that lining. They didn't know what it did, they just knew that it soothed the lining of the digestive tract. So whether it was ulcerative colitis or H. pylori or ulcers of some other sort or just indigestion, sedum is good for that. So you can have a meal of that or have it as a finish to your meal and help your digestion. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, on the sedums, any of the cultivars are edible?
Most that I'm aware of are edible. So sometimes when something gets crossed to produce a different color or a different texture or something of that nature, it might develop a constituent, a chemical. So that's why certain varieties will be edible when others won't of anything. So to my knowledge, all sedums are edible. All right, let's see what else we got here. Here's one that is very controversial because, save it for the monarchs. Milkweed. Very edible. Certain varieties are very edible. This one is Asclepias syriaca. It has a purple blossom. This blossom here is very young, very tender. It'll be the beautiful purple flower that smells heavenly. Boy, you talk about a good syrup like we did here. Oh, it's just absolutely wonderful. If y'all saved your cups, I meant to tell you that earlier, if you saved your cups, you can have some of this syrup straight just to taste it on its own. But you can take these and when they're in bloom, when they're purple, you can take these and make a syrup. You can put them in a dessert. When they're just a little bit bigger, they make peas. Each one of these little blossoms will just make an individual pea, and it tastes just like peas. The only thing about this plant is it has latex, right? This latex, you don't want to eat it. You see that? See it coming out right there? But you can put it on a wart. Get rid of it quick. A wart. A melanoma. I'm not supposed to tell you that you can get rid of a melanoma like that.
Is it the swamp milkweed or
Swamp
common
milkweed, common milkweed. Swamp milkweed is one that you can eat. If it has a purple flower, it's usually, to my knowledge, is edible. If it has an orange flower, it's not edible. That would be butterfly weed, is a milkweed.
When you say purple, you mean light purple. Right. The ones I have are like pinkish purple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got one, and I'm not sure what variety or whether it's just found a spot of nutrients in my garden or what, but it's a darker purple. It's deeper than this color right there, where the others are a little bit lighter. So I don't know if it's a different variety or if it just found something that it liked in that spot. So I'm going to start this one over here. Just be aware that there's some, when these are, we got a little critter here, a little traveler. Anybody want to go knock him off? There's two of them in there, and then we'll pass these around. Yeah, just knock those two little, or flush them, or whatever you want to do. I think one of them is they're both earwigs, which actually eat other pests. So, but when those are about this tall, you can snip them off at the ground. Wrap them in, if you are inclined to wrap them in bacon and treat them like an asparagus, and have bacon wrapped asparagus, bacon wrapped milkweed. Wonderful. It's very wonderful. If you don't eat bacon, you could certainly prepare them a different way.
You said the orange is not edible, but is the, what you call the latex, still effective on warts?
It doesn't produce nearly as much latex. If you do happen to have some latex, it would be medicinal, but it would be hard to gather. This one, the common milkweed, produces a lot comparatively. So it would be enough to dab every day on something. And you would want to dab it 2 or 3 times a day. So you could take that leaf, like if this was the milkweed leaf, cut it off the plant, and dab it, lay it to the side, come back and break it a little bit further up the stem and dab it again a little bit later in the day. So you'll want to do that 4 or 5 times a day. That's one of the things that people don't like about herbal medicine is it's not take one pill or take one herb and call me in the morning. Usually you have to do 2 or 3 times a day. You want to do little bits throughout the day, like a half a cup of tea 4 times a day. And people don't want to do that. They want to take 1 pill a day and be done. But herbal medicine is a little bit different. So we have to take that into consideration when you're trying to cure things. All right, the top leaves, you can go ahead and pass it around. The top leaves are also edible. The bigger leaves, they become bitter. I wouldn't eat them. Just because it's bitter doesn't mean it's poisonous, but they're going to be hard on your gut. So I guess they would be toxic. But the little ones, when they're real small up at the top, you can still eat those. You know what this is? What kind of clover? Red clover. This is red clover. This is not purple clover. Unfortunately, this is red clover. There is a scarlet clover that has a red flower, right? Okay, confusing enough for you? There's also white clover, and there's other clovers as well. This one is a common trifolium pratense. If you're keeping up with that. But you can take and pop this off, just like that, take those leaves and the blossom. The blossom is very sweet. I've never had a blossom that's quite as sweet as a clover. That's why cows love it so much. They do have a sweet tooth. But cows will eat clover and it'll make them sick, right? After they eat so much clover, too much clover, or the ratio is off and they get in a field of clover and they eat way too much clover, they sometimes get sick because it's got too much sugar in it. But if they're eating clover that doesn't have the blossom, I think, isn't that right? Who has cows? Nobody? Well, just take that with a grain of salt because I may not know what I'm talking about there. I do know that they feed them clover, but it's not in blossom. I don't have a cow, so I don't know how that works exactly, but I do know that what they feed them is not in blossom. But the blossoms themselves will be very sweet, makes a wonderful tea, makes a wonderful syrup, very good for women. That's not to say that men can't have it. If you're bombarded with plastic, bombarded with estrogen, you don't necessarily want to use this as a medicine if you have an estrogen-related disease like cancer, ovarian cancer, mastitis, anything like that, and that could be men or women. You just don't want to eat too much clover because it does have a precursor to estrogen. So I'll pass that around. I'll let you look at it. You can see it's a very distinctive plant, but you can saute those up. You can make a syrup to preserve for the rest of the winter. You can save those greens just like you would with the other greens that we've talked about. Okay, let's see. Everybody knows what this is, right? Pine. It's a white pine. You can tell it's a white pine because there will be terminal ends like this. We just passed the pollen stage. Who dreads the pollen? That's one of the best androgens. And if you are allergic, have very bad allergies, it's probably not the pine pollen that's getting you. It's probably the alder pollen or the oak pollen or the maple pollen or all of these other pollens that are coming out in early spring the same time as the pine pollen. But pine pollen gets the blame for it because it's on our cars, it's on top of the lake, it's, you know, all of these different things that we see and we just associate it with pine pollen. And all of these different things that we actually are allergic to. Now, that's not to say somebody hasn't been tested and you're allergic to pine products, but if you're allergic to pine pollen, you're probably allergic to pine in general. This, as I mentioned earlier, you can take and mince up a few of these very fine and put them on fish, on salmon, give it that cedar smoky flavor. It's wonderful, but the pine pollen can be used in flour. For baking, you can add it to it, and it's an androgen. If you're having hormone-related issues, pine pollen is one of the best for that, especially for men. And I would never give it to men under, say, 35. This is for older people, both men and women. If you're running very low on hormone-related energy, pine pollen is going to give you energy. It's going to be a testosterone booster. That's not only libido, that's energy, that's mental clarity, that's stamina, all of those things. So pine pollen actually is very good for us, and we can put it in baking. You can sprinkle it in eggs, different ways to use it. But you better freeze it because it will mold in a minute. So I've had trays of this stuff. I make a concoction for men, especially older men who have started working out again and they need a little bit of energy, need a little stamina. Women who are going through menopause and have just bottomed out, don't have any energy. Crossvine and pine pollen are very good for that. But you can eat it, and I put it in a vinegar. I'll put these catechins just like that. Now these are spent. These are completely spent. But when they're full, they'll almost be juicy and very citrusy before they powder out. Like 2 days before they powder out is when you want to get them. And sometimes this particular tree, it rained, and I didn't get it off of this tree. This one's in my yard. But if you're suffering with COVID, even just daily, if you're taking a vitamin C supplement in your multivitamin or even vitamin C itself, this is going to be about 8 times better than oranges to make a tea. So you can take a big handful, and I take about this many, what I just did right there, just like that, but fill up this that you're serving in a quart of water. And I'll let that simmer. I'll put these in a jar and pour simmering water over it and let it sit for about 4 hours, whatever, till it cools, and then I drink it. And that is more vitamin C. It also has shikimic acid. If you're not familiar with shikimic acid, that's the main ingredient in Tamiflu. Now, you're not making Tamiflu, but you are making the ingredient, getting that ingredient accessible that's in Tamiflu. So what they've done with Tamiflu is they isolated one ingredient, the shikimic acid, which caused issues for people. If you're taking it this way, just as a tea, you're getting whole plant medicine. It doesn't cause those issues. The plant on the best source of shikimic acid is star anise, and that grows in China. So the second best source of shikimic acid is sweet gum. What does that sweet gum ball look like? Looks like a coronavirus, looks like a COVID molecule. So you've got these little spiky balls that everybody hates, and you're going to get rid of the sweet gum tree. That's one of the best medicines that you can have. It's very antiviral, antimicrobial, antifungal, antibacterial, anti-parasitic. Everybody's worried about parasites nowadays. That's that little demon in your yard. All those little spiky balls are, and that's for another lesson. But just remember that sweet gum is the second best source of that, and it's right here, sustainable, and we can get it.
So Suzanne, you demonstrated with white pine. Are all pines also very rich in that?
All pines are rich in it. White pine happens to be the best and the best tasting. I've got a Virginia pine in my yard too that I've used. I can't tell a difference in it, but it's kind of, on the hierarchy, it's about third. White pine and longleaf pine is generally regarded better tasting, and it'll have a little bit more shikimic acid and more vitamin C. So once you make that tea and it cools, you can just drink it like you were drinking lemonade. It's quite tasty. And if it's too strong for you, back off a little bit. Or if you want it stronger, put a little bit more in it. That's just a guide that I go by. And you can drink that every single day. You can replace some of your water with it because it's high in nutrients. What have you. There's just a lot of goodness in a pine tree. You can make pine bark bacon. I always wait for that. You take the cambium layer now if you peel off the outer layer on a pine tree, you're gonna introduce disease. So I try to wait till one falls or some of some nature. Take off the outer bark, and that inner bark, the cambium layer, that's the one that you'll make pine bacon with. And you just take and put it in your pan and let it toast, and then it's edible. If it's sliced thin, it usually is pretty thin. It's not gonna taste like pork bacon. It's gonna be a bacon. Bacon is its own category, right? It can be pork bacon, turkey bacon, what have you. Well, now we're doing pine bacon. So it's going to taste a little bit different, but it's highly nutritious. If you're in a survival situation and you got to have some food, peel that off. You don't even have to cook it. You can eat it raw. There's some nutrition in it. Did you have a question?
I did. Have you ever done the pine needle spray?
Spray?
Apparently, if you put pine needles in water and a little bit of sugar and let it ferment for a while, it's supposed to taste exactly like Sprite and be
Oh,
very
Sprite,
good for you.
Sprite. Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought you said spray.
Sprite.
Sprite. That's called a bug. And you can do that. The most common one is a ginger bug, but spruce tip bug is fabulous. And yes, it really tastes like Sprite, more so than even longleaf pine. But this one is good too. If you're looking for that Sprite flavor, I would go with the spruce. And it is fabulous. But you can do a ginger bug if you don't have a spruce tree. Go get you a root of ginger, chop it up, take 2 cups of water and 2 cups of sugar. Now this sounds like a lot. And then a cup of ground up or grated ginger. Put that in a jar and let it sit. And every day you'll add a tablespoon of both ginger and a tablespoon of sugar. And you're making a ferment. So then you'll take about a 1/4 cup and put it in a glass, maybe not even a 1/4 cup, adjust it for yourself. But you're feeding that every day for about 2 weeks. Take a 1/4 cup, put it in a glass, fill it with lemonade or what have you, and you have a fizzy drink. And you can even second ferment that if you're familiar with making a kombucha and you 2F it, it's gonna get fizzy. It's wonderful. And then you can take that ginger bug and flavor that with spruce tips or cherries or whatever, mulberry leaves, all of these things that you can flavor it with and make all of these different bugs. It's called a bug, and that's just a starter. And ginger is the most common, the easiest to start with because you can buy ginger anytime, whereas you can only get spruce tips in the springtime. So you would have to freeze your spruce tips or go ahead and make your syrup so that you can flavor it later.
FYI, ginger that you buy at the supermarket is very often irradiated and it won't grow a bug.
Oh, it won't grow a
I
bug, really?
waited for my ginger bug to ferment for 2 months recently.
Oh, wow. I used
Never
to.
did.
Oh,
And
well.
that ginger was from Aldi's and the price was very good for big chunks of ginger, but it didn't ferment. so
I go to
it was
Alabama about once a
radiated.
month, and I forget about that. I get mine down there at that huge farmer's market down there in, I forgot, Beaufort, I think it is Beaufort Road Farmer's Market. They have organic ginger, they have organic turmeric, and the turmeric is like $7 a pound. So I'll get big bags of that and bring it back and process it and put it up, and I have it all year. I only have to buy it once. So, yes, ma'am.
Can you make the tea year-round from the white pine?
Yes, you can make the tea year-round from the pine. The pollen, of course, is only going to be available usually from March. This tree just last week, that's why the catechins are still there. So that one is late every year for some reason, but I start getting it in March here in this area. So, okay. Have you ever seen such leaves on a strawberry plant? I was just so pleased with my strawberry plant. Now this one is domestic, but I have a ton of wild strawberries. The leaves are edible. They're great in tea. You can chop them up. I don't particularly care for them in a salad unless I steam them because they're a little bit stiff, but when they're very new, they're fresh and green. You could eat them as a trail snack. So, but that's one of my domestic strawberries, and I was like, wow, that's...
Strawberries are going to be
You
like
use the
this.
leaves from those little itsy bitsy strawberry things.
Now, are all strawberries, you can use leaves from the itsy bitsy strawberries. Are all strawberries, or those red berries that look like a strawberry, are all of those edible? Yes, they are. They are. Even the snake berry that has no flavor, that's not a true strawberry, even though it looks like a strawberry. They are edible. No flavor, I don't know why you'd eat it, because it doesn't have any flavor. But they are actually edible.
So is the fried strawberries that goes in your lawn?
The little small ones,
Yeah.
yes. If they have a white flower, it's in the strawberry family. The yellow one is, I'm sorry, the name is, but we called them snakeberries growing up. They're bumpy, very bumpy on the outside, and they have no flavor.
Is it cinquefoil?
It's a cinquefoil, yes, yes ma'am, it is a cinquefoil. The name had escaped me there for a second. But those, if it has the yellow flower, is not a true strawberry, but they are still edible, so are the leaves. Having said that, all strawberries, quote, strawberries, are edible if they have the white flower, and then also the one that's a lookalike in this case. Not all lookalikes are always edible. So. All right, this is another domestic plant with an ant on it. Who knows what that is? Fig tree. Did you know if you want coconut flavor? There you go, right there. There's your coconut. You can chop it up, dehydrate it, save it for winter time, but you can just lay that in a bowl, in a simmering pot of milk, and you've got coconut flavored milk. It's highly nutritious. Watch the sap, because again, you can take a wart off with that sap. So you don't want to, when you do that, if you're going to do that, you need to protect the skin around it with either the milkweed or the fig. You need to protect the skin around it. So if someone has one, say here, I'll take a little round Band-Aid, fold it and cut a little hole in it and lay it on it so that that's exposed, and then I'll keep that sap on it that way. But you don't want to put that sap on the skin around the wart, simply because it can burn. Yes, ma'am.
Is the sap from that also considered latex?
It's a latex, but not the rubber tree latex that causes, allergies. Some people might be allergic to that, but it's a different makeup. The latex is white, milky substance. So rubber tree latex is the one that so many people are allergic to.
Okay.
But this is a latex as well. So, but you can get a coconut flavor when you simmer it in that water. The latex is negated. What's my word? Anyway, you get rid of the toxicity in the latex. So, all right, let's see what else we have. This one is a dock with the red vein. See that red vein in that? That's just a different type of dock, red vein dock. Imagine that. Let's see what else we have here. You may have these with the purple, lavender, rosy, or white flowers. Do you recognize that?
Mallow.
Mallow. It's a rose of Sharon. Rose of Sharon is edible. The leaves, you can take the closed blossoms. You know, the blossoms only last for a day, and if you shake your tree, they'll all fall off as they close back up. You can take those that you've just shaken off or picked off. Let those dry and powder them, and it's really good. If you make your own toothpaste, it's going to make your teeth feel slick. So the Rose of Sharon powder, you can also make a gelatin type substance with a little bit of water, warm water, and the powder. Very good for your gut, very good for digestion. Any mallow is very good for digestion. So what are we doing here? We're making our food, our medicine. Instead of taking Prilosec, we're going to use something that's natural. The leaves can be put in salads. They're pretty meristematic, especially these small tender ones. I don't think I'm passing this stuff around, am I? Here's a fig. But this is the Rose of Sharon, which is in the mallow family. Now, regular mallow, common mallow, swamp mallow, all of those, same thing. You use the roots, are what's typically thought of, but I will harvest my leaves on my common mallow and dry those, and I'll use them in teas all winter. Good for digestion, good for throat, good for sinus. When the air is just so dry that it's hard to speak, mallow is a great tea for that. And you can put the fresh ones in a salad. All right, let's see, we just got a couple more here. Everybody know what this one is?
Yeah.
Sassafras. This is my grandmother, she would never have considered herself an herbalist, but I learned a lot of stuff from her. She would say sassafras. She was old Appalachia. And you know a sassafras because it will have 3 shapes of leaves. This one, yeah, it does have 3. This one has a mitten like this. It has a straight that's only this shape, and then it'll have a mitten on both sides like this one.
They used to teach it like this when I was a kid, left, right, sassafras.
Together, yeah. This one happens to have, and when I first saw this tree in my yard, I thought, that can't be sassafras. It's only got that shape leaf. The entire tree only had, and there might be 1 or 2 that had the little, I'm like, okay, well, I know it's a sassafras. I looked at the bark, I looked at the tree shape. You can always tell certain, whatever you're looking at by the way the tree branches. See how this is the main branch here, and this one shoots off at an angle. You can always tell what you're looking for by looking at the branching. So like in the winter, I would have known this was a sassafras from the bark and the way the tree branched. So you not only look for leaves, you can tell other things, bark patterns and things like that. So anyway, do you know what you can do with the leaves? Who's ever had a bowl of filet gumbo? You've eaten sassafras. You can take and dry those leaves, dry them, grind them, sift them, and you have filet gumbo powder. You have filet seasoning. If you love Cajun cooking, things like that, that's good stuff. Grape leaves, when the grape leaves, this happens to be a muscadine, but when these leaves get bigger, or you can use them now, but there's a recipe in my book where I take and put a filling in this, wrap it up, and then make a lemon piccata with my daisy capers. Make a lemon piccata sauce with filling, and use the tender grape leaves. You may have to steam them, but use the grape leaves and make a ravioli in a lemon piccata sauce. And that would have sorrel, and that would have the capers and sumac, whatever else. Sumac is very tasty. Who thinks sumac is poisonous? It's not. There is 1 out of 200 varieties of sumac that have the red berries. The one that has the white berries is toxic when it doesn't grow here. So any sumac that you find with the red berries, even the shoots, when the shoots on the new growth, they're very meristematic. They're very tasty. And if they get a little bit bigger, you might have to peel them a little bit, but you can still just chomp down on them and have a great little snack. And it'll grow back. It'll grow back. If you take those shoots on the milkweed, I told you about wrapping them in bacon or whatever, and chopping them up and preparing them, it'll grow back. It'll grow back. And the only part that the butterfly eats, the larva eats, the caterpillar, is the leaf. They don't eat the blossoms. They don't eat and I can eat the blossoms, I can eat the peas on the milkweed, I can eat all of these other things and not interfere with our monarchs. Let's see, that's one of, this one is very hard to tell because it's the only one that I saw. Passion flower grows wild here. It's edible. Just be aware that it's on the sedative side, so it's going to help you sleep, it's going to help you calm, it's going to lessen anxiety. But sometimes we need a big old bowl of sedative. Sometimes. Yes. All right, yes, ma'am.
How do you prepare the passion flower? Once it blooms, because I have a huge one, once it blooms, and then it has the pod or whatever, can you eat that?
Yes, those little green pods, but they're like persimmons. You just about have to let them not rot, but get way past where you think they're edible because they're very tart, unripe. If they're smooth and green, you want them where they're wrinkly and yellow, and you open that up and it's sweet. I like to take and put that in a jar, just scoop all that out and just pour honey over it, and it'll get boozy.
And I can eat the leaves on my passion
You
flower?
can't eat the leaves. I would go light on them.
Okay.
So like if you're going to eat them in a salad, I would only put 1 or 2 leaves in there. But I love a multi-plant salad. Get 20 different plants that I know. Chickweed, I had a, everybody know what that is? It's gotten a little dry now, but this is cleavers. Cleavers, usually people don't think about cleavers because it's sticky, but if you let it wilt like this is not gonna stick to my clothes. The stem will, but the leaves won't. And you can just take and pull these off and put those in your salad. And then the little seed pods has caffeine. There's only 3 sources of caffeine that are native to the United States. One of them is yaupon holly, the leaves of yaupon holly, and the seed pods of cleavers. I can't remember what the third one is. Coffee tree.
What part of the passion flower you use to make tea if you're drying it?
You can use the flowers and the leaves and the fruit. You know, if you get the little immature fruit, just like this big, you can put those in there too. I make a great tincture with those, with that. It's really good, and it's really good for calming. Mimosa is another one that's very uplifting and calming at the same time. So for anxiety, where you need to level out, but you need that uplift, not a little bit of depression on that side, you can use mimosa flowers. And you can sprinkle those in a salad as well, or on top of vegetables. Last but not least, well, no, let me do this one. Who knows what this is? Usually it's a holly. Well, it's actually aquifolium. It is, this is Mahonia, leatherleaf Mahonia, Oregon grape. You use this a lot in landscapes, but unfortunately they brought in a Chinese variety. That's the one, like if you go down toward Tryon, and it's everywhere down there. I mean, it is really invasive. There's a spot on 26 before you get on 74 going down the mountain. If you look to the right, to the left, I'm not going to tell you where it is because that's where I harvest. But there is, I mean, it's as big as this entire room. It's gotten invasive. But it is a berberine. Who has heard of berberine for diabetes? Berberine is very good for diabetes. The berries turn purple, and unfortunately this particular one is in the sun at my house, right at my back door, and so the berries all have fallen off. I just happened to see this many. This is usually full of little grapes. They're slightly bitter, sweet, sour, bitter. But you can make, out of the flowers are beautiful bright red, and they smell heavenly. Make a wonderful syrup out of that. That's how you would preserve it. You can make a syrup out of the berries. You can just eat these or dehydrate them. They do have a seed. But the root or the bark or the wood is where you're going to get the berberine from. Highly medicinal. It's a great antiviral, antibiotic. But then also they have found that you can get capsules of berberine to take for diabetes. If you're taking that for diabetes, or you know someone who is, they need to take breaks on it. So take it 5 days, off 2, take it a week, off a week. You're going to get better results that way. All right, the last one, live plant that I have here, I'm pretty sure this is a live one. Anybody know what that is? Poke. Poke salad. S-A-L-E-T or S-A-L-A-T, sometimes spelled with 2 L's. S-A-L-L-A-T. Poke salad, not salad. Salad is cold vegetables, usually raw. Salad is a French word meaning cooked green. You always have to process this plant. It's not going to reach out and grab your children. It's not going to make your graveyard dead. But it needs respect. It does have to be treated. Who's ever had poke salad? Anybody in here? Okay. What did they do? Boiled it a couple times, 3 times. You hear 3 times. My grandmother never boiled it 3 times. Never. Because she would get leaves. I know this is not a poke. But if she found a poke leaf this big, she wouldn't pick it. Because it would be bitter and it would have to be boiled more. So what she would do, she would get leaves, about this size, no bigger than her hand. I remember her laying poke salad in her hand to measure it. And she got so good she didn't have to do that, but once in a while she would measure it. I don't know if she was trying to teach me that or just that she did it. But if she would never get them bigger than her hand, and she never had to boil it more than once. and I had a lot of poke salad growing up. And it was never bitter. I never remember her boiling it more than once. If she did, if she had bigger leaves, as the season progressed, the leaves would get bigger and she would boil it twice. And that means you bring the water to a boil, put your fresh greens in, your washed fresh greens in there, let the water come back to a boil and boil for 1 minute. And then she would strain them out, throw that water away, she would taste them. And if they were like regular greens, she never boiled them twice because she had fresh young leaves. Now, who's got turnips that bolt? What happens after your turnips bolt? They get more bitter. Well, when you see this stem, that plant has bolted. That's why those leaves on the stem are more bitter, usually. But even a plant that's very tall, if you look at it, it's going to have new growth. So those fresh young leaves are much better than those big honking leaves you see at the bottom of the plant. So, yeah, you're going to have to boil those multiple times. But if you get the small leaves, you're boiling out the phytolactotoxin. This is Phytolacca americana. I teach a class on poke. And I was going to bring poke salad, prepared poke salad greens, but something got hold. I don't know if somebody sprayed my patch or what, but it looked horrible. I didn't gather any of it. This one is growing right near my back door. Imagine that, right at my back door. But you can take these shoots when they're about 6 inches, no bigger than this. This one was actually about this tall, so I just broke off the top. But if they're this far out of the ground, you can do the bacon wrapped asparagus thing with poke shoots too. They're very good. But you can chop up this much stem, and it's a misnomer. You know, it's kind of not true that you can't eat it after the stem turns red. That's not exactly true because it'll still have fresh young leaves on it. Once the berries come out, it's really hard to get not too bitter leaves once the berries come out. Can you eat the berries? Absolutely. My grandmother would make pokeberry and muscadine jam. Not my favorite. I loved my grandmother's jams, but I never told her that I didn't like pokeberry jam. You just didn't tell people stuff like that, you know. So I would either eat it or not, but with muscadine it wasn't quite as pungent. Pokeberries are not my favorite berry, but a lot of people, especially now because this has come out, and Daryl Patton, my mentor, is one of the people who have really got this out. Pokeberries contain a toxin in the seed. There's 9 seeds per berry. That coating on those seeds is very good for digestion. So when those seeds go through your digestion, it's gonna dissolve slightly, but the toxic part inside that seed is going to pass through your system unless you have an issue and your system is extremely sluggish. That's not going to be a problem. Now, if you only go to the bathroom like less than once a week, it may be a problem. However, that coating in your system, even at 1 or 2 berries, is going to help your system. It's a lymphatic, which means it's going to help push those toxins and things out of your body. So there's a lot of people who will save their berries, eat 3 a day. Y'all ever heard that? To take 3 for arthritis pain? Very good because it's a lymphatic. It's going to help get rid of the inflammation that's causing the arthritis pain. If you're taking a medication for arthritis, you're just working with the pain. You're not working with what's causing that pain, which is inflammation. So those berries, the seed itself is going to help with that inflammation. So you start with 3 berries, work up 1 a day until you reach a point where you feel like you're having to go to the bathroom too much. Then you back down, and that's your dose. If it's 12 berries that causes a little bit of urgency, back down to 10. And your dose might be 10 berries a day. I take 3 or 4 berries once a week, and I have arthritis. If I eat commercial bread, I know to go ahead and take my berries because I'm going to have pain. Commercial bread causes a tremendous amount of arthritis pain for a lot of people. So the grain, it's not necessarily the gluten, it's just the grain and the processes and things. So if you're going to take your poke berries, just remember, don't chew the seed. You can dry those berries, you can freeze them, then you can make wine with them. Lots of different ways to preserve those berries all year. So I have a big bag in the freezer that's just about gone, that I give to people. So. Okay, so that's about what I have here. Let me tell you a few ways that I have preserved some things. It seems like I'm stuck on ramps because that happened to be what's on my counter. We just had ramp season, and this is fermented ramp bulbs. This one, and that's a wonderful way to preserve. All of my next book, one of my next books, I've got like 3 started, the companion to this one is Wild Seasonings Beyond the Garden Gate. So one of my favorite ways to preserve seasonings is to ferment them. So I will ferment the leaves of ramps, and this is going to be drained, squeezed out, and dehydrated and made into powder for ramp salt.
Are we past ramp season?
Yeah. The flowers will be coming out soon if they're not already. I did get some very late ones, the 1st of May, up in Burnsville, but the patch was just about gone. Everything had turned yellow as could be. And the guy that I get them from, I trade him out herbs for his ramps, and he went out and looked, like on Sunday. Oh yeah, they're still here. They're beginning to turn yellow. Monday morning, they were yellow. So the season was over. We got a few. He usually doesn't let me take too many bulbs, just what happens to come up, but he let me dig a few bulbs there. He's got a beautiful ramp patch, but he's worried about decimating it because he's heard so many stories about not digging the bulbs. And if you find a patch of ramps, pull a leaf, pull leaves. Don't dig the bulbs unless, like this, I get permission from a huge patch owner. The guy gives me permission to do a few. So I have about 3 jars like this. But this brine is gold in your kitchen.
What did you put the liquid in that?
This is 2 tablespoons of salt, and I put as many in there as would fit, and they've shrunk a little bit. This is about 2 weeks old now, so it smells wonderful. But it's just salt and water. And this will lacto ferment. And this is the same salt and water. And this is just the leaves. This one, another way to preserve a lot of stuff, berries especially. This is honey that's about 5 years old, ramp honey. Very potent. It gets used on special occasions. So I can't let you taste it today. Sorry. This is cherries off of a feral cherry tree that was probably part of an orchard or somebody's backyard that has been donated or bought or purchased for a park. And I'm not going to tell you where it's at because I'm about to go get some more of them. So, I got a big bowl of them earlier this week, and I passed it on the way here, and I thought, ooh, I think there's even more, so I'm going to go get them, and I'll tell you later where it's at. I can't tell you. So that is alcohol, and to make maraschino cherries. These will be, and I de-seeded them, and the ones that kept the stem on it, I put in this jar, and I meant to do chocolate-covered cherries, cacao-covered cherries from my honey locust tree. Remember I told you about the honey locust making a cacao? I was going to do honey locust-covered cherries, feral cherries, and I didn't get that done for Christmas. And then the seeds on a cherry, black cherry, regular cherry, whatever cherry, gives you one of the best almond flavorings ever. So this is my start. I've got a big bowl of cherries waiting for me to process them, so this will be full before it's over with the brandy for almond extract. Actually, it's cherry pit extract. So, okay, I do have, do we, how much time have we got?
Well,
We're over?
it's like, yeah, 2:20, we're at 2:20.
Is that, if we don't have time?
Sure, I mean,
Okay.
as long as people get the wrap.
Okay. Do y'all want to continue just a little bit for 5-10 minutes?
Yeah, good.
And then we'll have a snack. Just like kindergarten, we'll have story time.
Get a nap too?
Well, I hope not.
Well, not during.
I hope I've kept you entertained.
Could you pass the poke?
Yes, ma'am, I sure will. I didn't even think about that.
If they're out of order, Suzanne, doesn't matter.
That's quite all right, yeah.
Well, they're all in a circle, so. Yeah. Okay. So, I'll be your driver.
Okay. Wild roses, high in vitamin C, especially the hips in the fall. Very high in vitamin C. Gather them, just clip them off. Petals can be used in the spring in syrups, sprinkled in salads. You know, if you ever eat a salad with flowers, rose petals are very good. The wild rose, multiflora rose too. This one is not, or if it is a multiflora, I don't remember.
It looks way
what
fancier than
Yeah.
multiflora.
But there's some pink ones around if you look. They're not just the multiflora. They're a wild rose. That's multiflora. I took that this morning. They're about spent. I did get some off of that, but you could just take those petals. You don't even have to clip them up, or just clip off the clump and make a syrup, preserve those, what have you, in different ways. The petals too can be used in powders and things like that. Daylilies, one of my absolute favorites for pesto, one of the first pestos in the spring. Daylilies and ramps, a little bit of lemon balm or wood sorrel, the sheep sorrel as well, makes a fabulous pesto. No basil. And I eat that, oh man, I eat that. And I'll take those leaves, grind them up, put oil in them, and fill an ice tray. And then I have daylily in the oil for any pesto that I make all year. So I have a whole chapter on pestos, different types of pestos, even with rose petals, mallow petals, all kinds of things. Not petals, but the leaves. That's a terrible picture, but that's a yucca plant. Does anybody recognize yucca? Can you see it in my head anyway? That's a yucca plant, and it makes white flowers. The buds coming up, now this got decimated. This was at the edge of my pines, and I had to have somebody come and clear all my pines that fell. So this one is just coming back. But the buds that come out in the shoot when they're still meristematic, oh, they're wonderful. Again, you could treat them like an asparagus.
It looks like a big experience.
Yeah. Juniper berries. Who's ever had gin? Of course, they make it with juniper berries, but juniper berries can be dried. They're actually a cone. Juniper berries can be dried and ground up and used in a wild Old Bay seasoning, along with spruce and ginger and a few other things. And you can use the juniper berries. This was a raspberry, a wild raspberry. My camera focused back here, but that is a wild raspberry, but you can break off the tips and eat those tips and they'll grow back.
Is it the same as wineberries? No.
Hold on.
Wineberries there.
Oh, wrong one. That's the elderberry. We've already talked about elderberry. There's a honeysuckle. Oh, I just had to show you my blueberries. I'm so proud of it. That's a tulip poplar. That's actually a magnolia. Populus deltoides is in the magnolia family. Highly antiviral. So if we're delving over into the medicinal part, there's sassafras.
Can I ask you a question about that, the previous one?
Okay.
Those things fly off and they're all over my driveway, the little flower pods. So what do you do with them?
You can take those flowers, really you want them before they get to this stage, when they're just barely open and they open real quickly, or they're not open. Take those and you can put them in PGA, 190 proof alcohol, and make an antiviral. It's very good for lungs. Very good for skin too. And that's the sassafras. We talked about that. The sassafras root, well, I didn't talk about the sassafras root, is very good to make a tea in the winter, to sip at night, just like one swig of it at night. It helps with sleep. And it's also a prophylactic antiviral to help your immune system and help prevent colds. That is a crossvine, and you know it's a begonia, but you know that it's a crossvine because it's 2 leaves across from 2 leaves. And that's called cross vine, so it's actually, there's a little cross in there. So you know that one is very good for adrenal fatigue. Mulberry leaf. Who has, well, you don't raise your hand, diabetes, but mulberry leaf is very good for diabetes, but you can make tea from the leaves. You eat the fruit, preserve the fruit. You can dry the leaves and have that as tea all winter. Solomon seal. Now, while Solomon seal itself is not edible, the root is highly medicinal for pain, and the berries on Solomon seal we've just passed the berries on these plants, but the berries are edible. You'll find them, and then there's certain varieties that it'll come up in September. They'll have the berries. This variety fruits early. Elderberry again. I think we just saw these, yeah. All right, now that's a mimosa. Is anybody familiar with the really pink, pretty cloud trees? Highly medicinal for anxiety. So if you need to level out, if you're not manic and not manic depressive or bipolar, but if you're prone to anxiety and just need to calm down, but without getting depressed, you might be on the depressed side and just need an uplift, this is wonderful, especially like when you're going through grief. I put this with hawthorn, and it just uplifts and helps you just kind of cope through things. So the leaves are good, the bark is good, but especially the flowers. Peaches, peach leaf. You can take and ferment peach leaves, and boy, you talk about a flavor for tea. It's absolutely fabulous too. You bruise them, just like you were rolling tobacco on your thigh, roll them and bruise them, put them in a jar, stuff them in a jar, close it up, leave them for a week, pull them out and dry them and make your tea from that. Wow, it is so good.
Can you do that with nectarine leaves too?
Nectarines, persimmons, black gum, you can do it with mulberry leaves are very good. This is a blackberry, and again, the tips, you can take that tip off right there and saute those up, and they're very good. It's a little bit different flavor, a little bit different texture that a lot of people aren't used to. Wild food you have to get used to, but it's something to try. And that is the daisies. You can see these little, you can see the little capers, or soon-to-be capers. Peach leaf. That is a cleaver's, if you can see it. It really didn't. I was going through real quick taking pictures. That's a cleaver's, the one that sticks to you. You put it on your, and it just feels like Velcro. Guess where Velcro came from? The idea for Velcro.
There's one.
There's the one. Gosh, they look like rubies sitting on top of that. And I have a whole row of wineberries, and I have to. They'll get 20 feet long, so I have to trellis those and cut them back.
Do they have thorns on the stems? Oh, lots.
Lots.
Okay.
But they look like just rubies sitting there. They're so pretty.
The bears like them.
Yeah, the bears like them too.
What can we do with them?
Yeah, what can we do? I have a lot
A
of
lot of them.
Yeah.
A lot of those. Oh, jams, jellies, anything you can do with them. Blueberry. Oh yeah. Raspberry. I would get them, and now we have spotted winged Drosophila, so you want to make sure you're getting them immediately as soon as they get ripe, because spotted winged Drosophila is a little gnat that's got a tenacious ovipositor. Oh, I thought that sounded so funny. That just makes me giggle. Tenacious ovipositor just makes me go through. That means it can lay in fruit that where other gnats can't, and you'll have this beautiful red gem on the stem, and you mash that berry and it's full of maggots. We have a terrible problem with spotted winged Drosophila because they are laying where other gnats can't.
So get them quick.
Get them quick. As soon as they begin to get ripe, you want to get your any raspberry type fruit. Those drupe type fruits, not drupe, but
Is the R-U-P-A-L?
yeah, drupe.
Right? Or is that the computer program?
Drupe.
Yes, that too.
Including blackberries as well.
Including blackberries as well?
Yeah, they will lay in blackberries, raspberries, dewberries, all of those. That soft fruit. Yeah, so as soon as you see them, if you see one that looks overripe, I wouldn't get it, I would toss it. I would toss it away. All right, any questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a good app for identifying these things online?
Well, yeah, just please be aware that apps are notoriously inaccurate. The one that I have on my phone that I'll use as a starting point is Leaf Snap. And it'll give you 5 different options, and it's up to you to decide whether it's really that plant. If it almost looks like that plant, no. That's where ID is critical, and these things, and you can change these apps. The user can actually change the algorithm. If you input something that's incorrect, well, it's going to mess the whole thing up. So that happens so often, and they're just notoriously inaccurate. And I see people say that all the time. Oh, my app says this. It doesn't look anything like that plant. So, yeah. So unfortunately, if you're going to use that one, at least turn around, if nothing else, look on Google and pull up what the planet tells you, and then compare the 2 pictures, compare the ID. Wikipedia will give you a very descriptive ID, 5 lobes on the leaf, or 90-degree branching, or whatever. You know, it'll tell you really, really good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have any favorite tools or things that you use on a daily basis?
I do. I have. I keep a shovel in my truck. Never dig or never pick where you don't have permission. You know, be aware of what's sprayed. But I do keep a shovel. I keep bags and things like for the cherries that I told you about. They're in a park. I'm gonna go get them. Y'all can come after me, but or follow me home. But
What kind of car do you
that's Toyota. I don't have a truck. But I keep that. I keep a spade. I keep an ID book is my best tool. And then I have a bark peeler. It's curved. It's about a 7-inch bark peeler, so it's got 2, because I peel a lot of bark. And you draw. It's a draw knife, and it's curved. I keep that. Pruners, you know, to get bark and get saplings and things like that.
Do you have like a tapping device, you said, for your birch syrup?
Yeah, but I don't keep those with me most of the time. That's
Yeah.
a season to tap. It's a very short season. When the ground is warm at night, but it's still cold, that's when, you know, like February is when you want to tap. Black walnut can be tapped, hickory, sycamore, maple, of course, birch. All of these can be tapped. Anybody else?
Do you eat your hostas?
Absolutely. They are
Yeah.
so good. Hosta shoots, when they're unfurled, cut them off at the bottom and they'll come back even bigger. And you can use those like you would asparagus. Yeah, and leaves and salads and things like that.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you.